Hello and welcome to another edition of Radio Worldview.
That's crazy talk.
I knew you didn't like that, but here we are. My name's Jeff Baldwin. This is Bill Jack, and we are still in the process. This is part two of us answering listener mail. So we had a listener write in and ask, as an educator, what should be my attitude towards artificial intelligence? Is this a tool? Is this something I need to be afraid of? And it's a great question. I think it's a question that all of us are asking. We did our best in the first episode, but there's definitely more to say. We are dying to go see the movie Mercy.
Right. I think it'll give us some context, some insight into the latest AI technology and how it is going to impact humanity.
Yeah. And I think it goes right to what we said in the first edition here. We said that the question is sovereignty, right? Who is over who? Are you going to let AI be the judge? And even in small matters, right? Even in the question of, did this student actually plagiarize? I'm advocating for the human judgment has to be the judgment there, that you don't just turn over this decision to AI and say to it everything. You decide for me, the human.
Well, humans tend to be lazy.
That's one thing for sure.
That's the problem. And
man,
we tend to want to take the easiest route. And so this new technology opens itself up to abuse on one end by the student, also abuse by the faculty on the other end.
Yeah.
The teacher, the administration.
Yeah, because let's be honest, nobody likes grading papers, right?
Exactly.
It's a pain.
Right.
I like teaching, but I don't really love grading papers. And so you have this tool all of a sudden that says, I'll take care of that for you. You don't have to worry about that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. And it goes to, I think, an issue that we and I were just discussing off camera, and that is, it is dominion. That we are to take dominion over this world. The guy who had the vision for Worldview Academy, Todd Kent, raised that at our 30th anniversary. And you said you've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, I would say he's a bigger fan of AI than you or me.
Right. Yeah.
You or
I.
So, but first, it's time for a segment we like to call Roadkill Cafe. And I want to take credit for this, but Bill Jack discovered it, so I better let Bill Jack say, if you are passing through Flagstaff, Arizona,
Macy's Coffee.
Man. Macy's Coffee.
It is so good.
That's my favorite coffee shop in all of America.
Right. And you and I have been across the country and seen and tasted a lot of coffee shops. I don't have a real discerning palate, but Macy's has got great coffee, but it's the vibe and the atmosphere that just set it off. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not a scone guy.
Yeah, this is what you always said, is you're crazy about their scones.
Their scones are amazing.
Yeah. I'm not a scone guy either, and I don't think I've ever taken your word for it on their
I almost missed
scones.
a flight just so I could go by there and pick up a scone to bring home to my wife.
Well, that was, at least it was for your wife. That makes sense. Yeah. No, I'm telling you, you walk into this place and the coffee grounds have permeated every nook and every cranny. I don't have a real sensitive nose, but you just walk in and it smells like paradise. People have been making great coffee in this place for 20 years or longer. And so you just know, first of all, there's a line out the door, so that's a good clue. But then the second thing is when that smell hits you, you just think, oh, I am in for a good cup of coffee. So
you walk into a coffee bean.
You really do. It's seriously that way. We laugh about it because Flagstaff is a little hippied out. I wouldn't say Flagstaff is Boulder yet.
No. Well, it may be.
It's close.
It's close.
Yeah. Right. You get the same vibe from Flagstaff, Boulder, and then Albuquerque downtown by the University of New Mexico, but it's pretty hippied out. And so I was standing in line with my wife, Linda, and a couple people back. We saw this nicely dressed couple from church. He was in a polo and slacks, and she was in a dress. They walked into Macy's, and I saw the husband kind of hesitate, but he got in line, and then the wife looked around the room and took his arm and just steered him back out the door. And I thought, yeah, I understand that, but also you guys are missing the best cup of coffee you'll ever have.
Yeah, because the guy in front of you's probably got dreads.
Yes.
Or the guy behind the counter has dreads.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a lot of suspected dope smoking and that kind of thing too. So but I'm telling you, Macy's Coffee in Flagstaff, Arizona. Lots of people pass through Flagstaff, even if it's not the destination for you. It's on I-40. Do yourself a favor and stop.
Yeah,
stop at
and you can stay at the hostel on the corner.
I wouldn't recommend staying at the hostel on the corner. Gosh, we'll save it for another day. But you pointed me to a good place in Flagstaff too for Italian food.
Yeah.
And then there's a good Mexican
place
in Flagstaff too. We'll save that for another day. This ends. Boy, I hope that isn't copyrighted. What I just did.
Yeah, maybe we should AI some kind of transition.
Yeah, when my mouth opens, it seems like a symphony is coming out.
Exactly.
Of it. Yeah, but that is our segment we call Roadkill Cafe. Now we will get to the nuts and bolts of talking about AI as well. And just to go back to Dominion, Todd Kent, one of the founders of Worldview Academy, was saying very expressly, this is a tool, and it's a tool that Christians need to use as such to exercise dominion over creation. And even that language makes me a little nervous.
And why does it make you nervous?
Well, number one, and please take this to the bank, there are always unintended consequences with scientific breakthroughs and technological breakthroughs. So we act like, oh, I built the monster, so I know everything the monster is going to do. You don't. I don't. No one does except for God. And that kind of easy assumption, we'll figure it out. We can make it, and we'll figure it out. And if there are unintended consequences, we'll figure those out too. That makes me real nervous.
Our technological advances usually get out over our skis.
Yes.
In trying to figure out the ethical implications and just the sociological implications. For example, when cars became popular, when they started, beginning to catch on, people did not stop for cars when they crossed streets.
That's
okay.
Crazy.
I mean,
here's
the cars,
all this metal hurtling down at you.
They just walked. I mean, they were just used to walking around in the streets, and they did not change their pattern of walking. Pedestrians ruled. Okay, that is not the case today.
No.
Okay, and you can get a ticket for jaywalking. So, but at that time, I mean, the accidents were high. The pedestrian car accidents were extremely high. And it's because people's patterns and habits didn't change with the advancement of technology.
That's a good point.
It came afterwards.
That's a good point.
We're always catching up.
Yeah. And like you say, we are now habituated, I think that's the right word, to using Google. And Google gives us the answer. And it's a short step then from Google to ChatGPT. And now, boy, ChatGPT has really given me the answer. But the truth is, we shouldn't be assuming Google is giving us the right answer, and we shouldn't be assuming that ChatGPT is giving us the right answer. So, yeah, that's a great point about the cars. I thought you were going the other direction, because I do know that in the very, very old days, at an intersection, you had to stop your car, get out of the vehicle, fire your rifle to say, I'm driving through the intersection now, and then proceed through the intersection, which is very cautious. I like that cautiousness that says, this is a new technology. We don't know what kind of havoc it's going to wreak. So let's be careful about it. And I don't feel like we have that same care about AI right now.
And it's because the advancements seem to be steamrolling and
They're
coming
speeding up,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, boy, that's right. And so it's like you're on a roller coaster. You're already going 60, and it's like, well, now we're going 70. Put your hands in the air, I
Put
guess.
your hands
right?
in the air.
That's all we can do. Yeah, but so let's say it formally. In the book of Genesis, we have this call as human beings. It's given to us by God that we are to exercise dominion over the earth. That doesn't mean use it up, crumple it up into a ball and discard it. It means to care for, to be good stewards of creation. And anything that we can find that's a tool that will help us to be good stewards over creation, we need to think about and figure out, how is this tool useful for that particular thing.
And that goes to another word that we need to throw on the table, and that is agency.
Yeah.
That we need to exercise our agency as stewards. We need to exercise our agency as having dominion over. We do not need to blend into nature, nor do we just need to climb on the roller coaster and throw our hands up in the air and go along for the ride, screaming as we do so. But we have to have agency. We need to understand what our role is as stewards, and at the same time, make sure that we are in line biblically with what God says that role is.
I mean, when you say that, the way my brain works is to go priesthood of all believers, right? Like, you are responsible for what you believe, and you are responsible for working out that faith, for faith in action in your life. And that's the idea of agency, I think, as you are saying, this idea then, okay, I belong to God. My high priest is Jesus Christ before the mercy seat. And now I have this job to be about the business of exercising dominion. Mm-hmm. I have to figure out what that looks like. So, and I think that's the spirit in which this teacher asked this question of us. Okay, here is AI, here is this potential tool. What does it look like for a Christian to use it well? So we said in the first episode that critical thinking is crucial. The thing that I was emphasizing, we both were emphasizing, was we cannot set AI up as the judge or the sovereign. We need to exercise rulership over AI, which requires good critical thinking. If you are not standing on Scripture, knowing what the Word of God says, and then asking the right questions, you are putting yourself in jeopardy using AI. So real fast, if you don't mind, Bill, for longer than we care to say, but at least 30 years, I know it's more than that, Bill has been teaching the 4 killer questions, and the 4 killer questions point us to, what does critical thinking look like? How do you do it well? So,
right. Now, these are not unique to me. Somebody taught them to me. Good friend Andrew Heister taught them to me, who was taught by somebody else. And I've heard them elsewhere. But it's the 2-year-old question, why? Right? And every parent has been driven crazy by the 2-year-old question. And usually by the time the child is 4, the parents have beaten that out of them. So they don't have to answer that question
They
anymore.
have this knee-jerk, because I said so, which doesn't really help. Yeah.
Which is, why? Because I said so. Why? Because it's wrong. Why? Because I said so, which is circular reasoning.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get us anywhere. So you can play the 2-year-old with these questions. You can just be the irritant in the room. You can be that gnat that is just constantly buzzing around. Or you can use them wisely to really dig down and gather information, and then be able to think about what has been said to you.
Because as we're saying, AI can't do your thinking for you.
Correct.
You still need to be over that. So
Right.
hit us with the 4 killer
So,
questions.
when anybody says anything, like, please pass me the right-handed thingamajig, your initial question should be, well, what do you mean by the right-handed thingamajig? Because if not, you might go over and rummage around in the toolbox and drag back the left-handed whatchamacallit. It's just understanding the terms, setting the definitions, if you will, for a discussion.
So number 1.
What do you mean by what you're saying? And then the real killer question, and it usually stops most discussions on any topic. When you ask this question, eyes roll to the back of the head, jaws go slack, and people go belly up, and all you count are nostril hairs. Okay, and the question is, well, how do you know that what you're saying is true? So how do you know? Now, it's not a challenging question to the person. It's a challenging question to the issue. Okay, so you don't think that these are rude questions. It's not wrong to question authority.
Right. Certainly our tone can make them rude.
Well, how do you know?
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be
It's
that
the
way.
why
Yeah.
from the 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by what you're saying? How do you know that what you're saying is true? If you get past that, and you very rarely, if ever, do, because again, people kind of are stunned by that question. The next question is, well, what difference does it make in your life? And then finally, what if you're wrong
Yeah.
about what you're saying?
Yeah. And we may maybe amend, when we're talking about these 4 killer questions with AI, amend number 3 to what difference does it make in my life, right? Because AI doesn't have its own life in spite of what it might be implying to you.
Right.
So the question then becomes, all right, but what's the real impact here? Why does this matter
Correct.
for me? Yeah. Man, I think that is so perfect, because here's 2 things that I was thinking as you were saying that. Number 1, we live in a culture that is more and more shying away from free speech. It's harder to have dialogue with the random person on the street because maybe they have trigger words. Maybe, if you are wearing a red hat, they're going to automatically judge you and not want to talk to you. So it just becomes much more fraught. Not to say that we shouldn't still be going out there and asking questions. We should, but all of us have felt that. It's a more fraught atmosphere. And hey, guess what? You can't hurt AI's feelings, right? I think we need to say that over and over again. I read a great article that said, I don't want my kids to be polite to AI. I want them to be polite to human beings, because human beings are made in the image of God, and we need to carry the gospel to them. We need to be this winsome presence with them. But this is a machine. This is ones and zeros, and they don't have to be polite to the ones and zeros. So if you've ever felt like, oh, I don't want to ask, how do you know, or anything like that, guess what? Here's this completely emotionless machine that you can say, well, how do you know that's true to, and it's not going to get offended.
I think there's a danger to that.
Okay.
The more we interact with that,
Yeah.
it will affect our interaction with human beings.
You think
as well.
so? So if you
Yeah.
model impoliteness, or if you practice impoliteness.
Just being blunt, okay? Just being direct and blunt with AI may translate into how we in the future, just like pedestrians ignored cars, we may ignore the feelings of people. And I think we're seeing that in the culture anyway, with the lack of free speech and dialogue and conversation. So it may exacerbate that problem.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's a good warning. Maybe we need to be polite to AI too.
No, I don't think so. I'm just saying
It's interesting though, and AI does kind of draw you in, right? Like it's been programmed to want to have a conversation with you, and then to be encouraging in that conversation, so the conversation continues.
And that's the other danger. It's the idea of isolation. We can become so, we can become so focused on what AI gives us even the counterfeit reality that it will provide, that we do not have conversations, we
Yeah.
do not interact with people, there is no community.
Yeah.
And in our culture, with the polarization of our culture, that temptation to have a false intimacy,
Yeah. It's there.
it's
We
there.
know it's there.
Yeah.
We know that there are now women who marry AI, who marry avatars, I guess, of AI. We know that there's this poor man who tried to get on a train to go to New York City to visit the woman he'd fallen in love with, somehow knowing that this woman was AI and yet being drawn in. Jay Winslow. I love Jay Winslow. He's one of the faculty members at Worldview Academy. And one of the best things he talks about is alienation, right? He just spells it out as bluntly as he can. This is what the fall means. The fall means we are alienated from God, but that's not all. We are alienated from the world around us. We are alienated from each other, and we are alienated from ourselves as well. And all of those consequences of the fall are an opening for AI, right? It's an opening for this machine to sort of fill that hole created by that alienation, right? It's hard to get along with you,
Yeah,
but it's not hard to get along
with
with
AI.
right?
And that leads into what I just saw, an article I just saw about the new robotics and how robots are being given human faces and their eyes are the cameras, and they are being given, access to families, and not just to your stuff, but access to families. And the danger is that there's no risk in interacting with a robot as far as feelings, as you pointed out, or AI. But there is risk in developing a relationship with another human being. And so the safety is that I don't have to risk myself.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
I don't have to, there's no risk in me interacting with the robot, but I can develop this idea that I have a relationship.
So we're talking about vulnerability, right?
That's a better word. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so you're saying, if you are vulnerable with me, I might be a jerk to you. But if you are vulnerable with AI, the AI is programmed. Its nature is to never abuse that vulnerability. I
Right.
guess. Yeah.
Except, we're going down a rabbit hole.
Uh-oh.
Except, then where does all that data go when you interact with the robot or with AI? Who or what is collecting that data, and with what will they do with that?
Thank you. I keep asking. I know I said we're not going to talk about the dangers of AI this turn, but you can't talk about it without touching on them. I keep asking ChatGPT, hey, what do you remember about me? And I don't believe its answer. It always says, I only remember what you tell me to remember explicitly. And if you explicitly tell me to forget it, I will forget it. And I think that's not true. It's in those ones and zeros somewhere. And maybe you've forgotten it, but some human, some other algorithm, some way that can be extracted.
Okay. If we are faithful to confess our sins, God remembers them no more. A machine doesn't have that capability
That's true.
of forgiveness. It doesn't. We are not cleansed by confessing ourselves to a machine.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, the scariness of the whole thing. All right, well, we'll leave that alone. And we can just say very quickly again that, exercising dominion, using AI as a tool, looks like this. It looks like someone who uses the 4 killer questions when they're interacting, when they're setting the prompts for AI, so that you don't just take its word for it. So I think I talked last show about asking it to name some parodies from history, right? And then I asked it to define this idea of parody, because it was clear from what it said to me, it called some things parody that my definition wouldn't admit as parody. And so I had to sort of force the AI to narrow its terms and define what it actually meant by this idea of parody. And I think that's the way to go, that we use the questions to tighten the focus, to remind it, we're not taking your word for anything. You just came off with this loosey-goosey definition of parody. Here's a better one. Let's work within those paradigms. Or where did you get this definition of parody, right? That's number two.
It's another how do you know?
How
It's a variation of how do you know that what you're saying is true?
Yeah.
Where did you get it? What's your documentation? And it goes back to agency. It goes back to the idea that we have to exercise agency over any technology. We can, in any area, we can delegate authority.
Yeah.
We can't abdicate responsibility.
Yeah. And thank you so much for putting it in the terms of laziness, because that's a lot of it when you really get right down to it. It's not human beings with some sort of insidious plan. I mean, there are humans with insidious plans, but it's not always, I'm going to rule the world tonight, Pinky, or whatever. It's this idea of, hey, it's easier. It's just easier, right? I don't want to mess with this right now. The machine can mess with it and take care of it, and cool, you do that, machine. I want to go watch I Love Lucy or whatever. And it's a lot of times with us, it's just laziness. I don't want to grade those papers. You grade those papers for me. But anytime we abdicate, I keep coming back to that word abdicate. Anytime we abdicate, we are then using that technology irresponsibly, by definition.
And we become a slave to it rather than a master over it.
Yeah. I mean, oh man, isn't that the nature of being sheep? I just, the Bible compares us to sheep all the time, and sheep look for a shepherd. Or at least wander around until they get a shepherd, right? They need somebody to be moving them along. And if that shepherd isn't Jesus Christ, and then the vigilance that goes along with, I will follow Jesus, that is the shepherd, not any of this other stuff, you get yourself into real trouble.
It reminds me of, I think it was C.S. Lewis who said, there's no place on earth where you can safely lay the reins on the horse's neck.
One of my all-time favorite quotes. Yeah, it's perfect, because it's exactly right. As Christians, especially, you and I are old. And so, you can say that quote and it's like, okay, fine. For 10 more years, I have to be vigilant or whatever. But saying that to people who are 13, 18, 25, right? A lifetime of being vigilant, never just getting on the couch and letting somebody else chart the course. And it's that old paradox. It's, actually, someone's always charting the course for you. It's Jesus. And as long as you keep your eyes fixed on him, no problem. But if you ever let your eyes wander, whatever it is, you're in big trouble right away. This is a hard teaching. And yet, there's glory in it. There's dignity in it. It's something that we have to embrace as Christians.
Exercise your agency and your dominion.
Yeah.
And think.
So I think that's as much as we can say. The only other thing I know that Todd Kent would have us say about this, and I think we said it briefly in the first episode, is that you also have to be a good writer to work with AI. And I think you and I would both say that's married to critical thinking. Like, sloppy writing is sloppy thinking, right? And precise, elegant writing is precise, elegant thinking. So it's not as big of a gap or a divide as some people would say. It's actually, I think the two things go hand in hand. Think well and then be able to express yourself well. And because you're writing prompts, because ChatGPT works in this verbal field, then you have to put both of them together. You have to be able to say, okay, I use that word parody, but I have a sense of what parody is, and I can express it through writing to you, and now we can talk better about this idea of parody.
And that leads to our next segment, because in order to think well, you have to be well read and broadly read.
Good.
Okay.
It's the broadly that gets me.
Yeah, it's the broadly that gets me too. I tend to focus in on a certain genre, and I get locked in on that. And it's helpful, but at the same time, it's not broad enough to challenge me.
Yeah.
So we need to read and think through what we're reading. So what are you reading now?
Well, that's our next segment. What are you reading now? You didn't do the music for it, though.
Beep, 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 beep.
Hey, Huck, just dub in a beautiful symphony for that.
I open my mouth and...
Yeah, it'll be great. What we're reading now, there's a couple things I want to talk about. I'm probably premature in talking about this, but I'm reading a book called Storyteller, and I'm sorry to say I don't have the author's name off the top of my head, but it's a biography of Robert Louis Stevenson, a very recent biography of Stevenson. And as you know, I'm crazy about Stevenson. I think he's one of the greatest writers of all time. I also love that he actually lived life so that he could write about adventure, not like a grandmother in her recliner, but like someone who had been out there and been on edge and done it. He's got a great meditation, even on canoeing on a river in Belgium. And it's like, surely that essay can't be as profound as you're making it out to be. It is. It's called An Inland Voyage by Stevenson, and it's just one of the best things you'll ever read. It's just him meditating on being in a canoe on a roaring river, and it's wonderful. But anyway, this book, Storyteller, I'm only up to his college career. Actually, I just got to, he rejects being a lighthouse engineer, which is the family business. The family is very well-to-do because they're very good at it. In fact, his grandfather built the first lighthouse off the Scottish coast. So this proud history that he's going to reject. But anyway, all of that to say, I'm really looking forward to reading this book. I am already afraid that the author wants to be sure that Stevenson stays a non-Christian. Stevenson definitely rebels against his parents. He definitely lives like an atheist for several years. He definitely sins in many of the obvious ways. But he also comes back to Jesus. And there is no doubt in my mind about that based on the last book that Stevenson wrote. So I'm interested to see, will this, the whole thing of biographers is they're supposed to be objective. They're supposed to set their worldview aside.
Can't do it.
Yeah. Can we face up to the fact that Stevenson did trust Christ at the end of his life? It's going to be interesting to see.
So what you're saying is that Stevenson heeded the warning of the lighthouse that was in his family's history, and he saw that the path he was taking, the chart, the course he'd charted would lead to the rocks.
To the rocks, right? Yeah. And this can't be overstated. He had a governess, a nanny, when he was young, and she was, I think the term in those days was enthusiastic, which was the way of saying a real honest to goodness born again Christian who trusted the Bible as the Word of God, and it's crazy to read this biographer dealing with her because he doesn't like what she's saying. He doesn't like she's teaching Stevenson that man is inherently sinful, that all of us are desperately in need of a savior. He doesn't like any of that, but then he has to keep conceding. Everybody says that she was a warm and sunny person. It's like her doctrine is giving Stevenson nightmares, but she really was a joy to be around, and Stevenson really loved her. In fact, he dedicated his first work
Wow.
not to his mom, and that did not go over well, not to his mom, but to this governess, and wrote her letters of gratitude later on in life. So the seed of the gospel is planted in the nursery at the beginning with Stevenson
The
by this
hand that
faithful
rocks
woman.
the cradle
Yeah,
rules the world.
yeah, yeah, and it's yeah. So I'll give you the update on that later on, but I'm happy to say that I'm reading a biography, because you sound smart when you talk about reading a Grant biography, and most of the time I'm reading noir fiction, right? And it's like, well, I just read this story where this guy is strapped to a car and there's dynamite under the seat, and how is he going to get out? And I don't want to talk about that on this podcast. So, yeah. What we want to talk about what you're reading now?
No, we can save that.
Okay.
But what you just laid out reminds me of what Proverbs says. That you train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he won't leave it. And so, one explanation is that has to do with a mother weaning her child. That the picture that's given there is of an Israelite mom. When she's getting ready to take the child off the breast and feed it solid food. They didn't have baby food. They didn't have food grinders. They didn't have processed food. So she would chew up the food, and then she would scrape it off the palate, and she would touch the palate of the child. It means, when it train up means to touch the palate.
Really?
And so the tastes of the mother became the taste of the child.
Wow.
And so those tastes stayed with that individual the rest of his life.
Wow.
And it's a great picture.
Yeah.
And so his governess, his nanny, touched his palate.
Yeah.
And even though he wandered far away, he still had that taste in his mouth.
Perfect.
For the gospel and for the truth of the scriptures.
Perfect. This has been Radio Worldview, and we will see you again.
That's crazy talk.
Next week. One more episode on AI, because we are going to see the movie Mercy with Chris Pratt.
I think so.
And then we're going to talk about all the dangers of AI, as if we haven't already, and then we will move on to another topic.